Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 21st of June, 2021. Alright everyone, let's get right into it. So, just a recap of how Gitcoin Grants matching round is currently going. So, almost $200,000 has been crowdfunded from 55,600 contributions from 3,800 unique contributors here with 3,000 hackers joining. And this is just 5 days into the current matching round, which is really, really awesome to see. So, yeah, I mean, 3,800 unique contributors. And you know what? You can actually tell that these, at least most of these, if not all of these, are actually unique because, as I explained on last week's refuel, there's a bunch of different Sybil resistant mechanisms in place to make sure that it's kind of like real humans doing this. So I would actually love to see kind of a breakdown of these contributors and see which ones have actually registered with those various different Sybil resistant mechanisms and see, you know, how many actual unique people are donating here. But yeah, really cool to see this. Thank you to everyone that has donated to the Daily Gwei so far, and ETHUB of course as well. I really, really appreciate it. If you haven't made your donations yet, be sure to do so. The matching round ends on July 1st, so you still have a bit more time, about 10 days. And I'm going to remind you periodically until then anyway. But if you haven't done so, be sure to do it sooner rather than later so you don't miss out here. And also, while I was doing my donations, you know, the zksync checkout experience is absolutely awesome. I've used it before, obviously, in previous Gitcoin Grants matching rounds, but I think they improved it a bit. They made it a lot speedier, a lot more fluid. And it's just so awesome. Like just clicking checkout with zksync, being directed to the correct page. I already had funds on there in the address that I was using, and then I just kind of like routed those funds to the grants via zksync. So yeah, and as I said here, you know, the best part of this is just a small taste of Ethereum's layer 2 ecosystem, where, you know, once you actually use it and like you know, get a taste for it, basically see how well kind of it works, you can't like you know, can't go back really. You're like, wow, I wish like all of Ethereum was like that, which it will be soon. You know, waiting, I guess like high fees, long confirmation times and stuff like that will be a thing of the past. Like I know long isn't really long. You know, Ethereum takes what, like if you pay the highest fee, it'll take at most like one block to kind of approve your transaction, which is about 14 seconds, but that's a really long time still. And you know, this really does remind me of like the dial-up versus broadband days of the internet. Like with dial-up, to load a web page, depending on like how heavy it was, it could have taken that long, right? 14 seconds. It could have taken a long time. Now, there's no way in hell like any of us are waiting 14 seconds for a web page to load. If it doesn't load within 1 to 2 seconds, we're out, right? Like you can see in the stats and the metrics of different kind of like web analytics tools that usually most people will click off if the website doesn't load within like, I guess, 2 seconds or something like that. And I think that's what's happening with Ethereum now with the layer 2 ecosystem, where Ethereum as it exists today is still in like the dial-up phase of kind of like the technology. I actually think the adoption is still in like 56k modem stage, but the technology is around dial-up, I would say. And then layer 2 gets us to broadband, where we get to just basically speed everything up, get much more throughput and capacity to service much more users. So yeah, I mean, obviously, like I'm super, super excited about layer 2. I talk about it all the time. You know, I think there's a few other things here that I'm going to be talking about today as well, but it's just great to kind of use this on a real live product. And, you know, just have such a smooth experience as well. So yeah, looking forward to more of those experiences going forward. So, you know, we all know what the price action has been like over the weekend. Hasn't been great. You know, it's been pretty depressing. And I spoke last week on last week's refill about kind of how I'm viewing the market right now and the state of it and everything like that, and what I think's kind of like going forward. And the TLDR is basically that short term, I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. My most bearish case, I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but my most bearish case is that we just retest the old all-time high. So we go down to like the 1400s, and then, you know, there's a lot of buy pressure there, and then we go back up. But I've got no idea. Like short term, I mean, the number one reason why I don't trade is because I'm just too emotionally invested in this sort of stuff. Like Ethereum is my life. I am a perma bull. There's no way I could trade these markets with any kind of objectivity. So for me, I just take the long-term outlook, which means that, you know, years, decades, whatever. Like, I mean, obviously I'm taking a decades look, but you don't even have to take that long of a look. If you just go back and look at Ethereum's history, even its history from just like 5 years ago to where it is today, absolutely massive. Like massive difference in both price and technology and everything. You know, to give some context here, 5 years ago was 2016. You know, and this date in 2016 in June was like around the DAO event, and I think ETH was at like $20 or something, but very briefly because of the DAO. And then during 2016, it went back to like $6 or something by the end of it. So, less than 5 years ago, if you had bought, then $6 to today, even though, we just crashed from 4.4K to around 2K, you'd still be up like absolutely massively. So, I'm sure looking forward in 5 years is going to be the same scenario. But I put out this tweet where I said, like, let's look back 1 year and look forward 1 year just to kind of like take some context around Ethereum, and to not let the recency bias of the short-term market movements cloud our judgment here. So if we look back 1 year, we can see that the ETH2 beacon chain launched, and it launched successfully. It went off without a hitch. It represented, 6 years worth of work to get proof of stake Ethereum live, which was absolutely amazing, of course. Then we also had the explosive growth of DeFi and NFTs over the last year or so. DeFi, I guess, like, lasted longer in terms of like its growth, and it's still growing to today. NFTs had like a very fast kind of boom and bust cycle, but still NFTs. I mean, I've been looking at things like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, that is getting a lot of activity on there. There's a bunch of other stuff happening there. The metaverse is still kicking. Like, there's a lot of passionate people in that area that are still kind of doing things there. And on top of that, L2s began rolling out. I was just talking about my experience with zksync, and we had like obviously Loopring and Diversify, DYDX, a bunch of others out there, Hermes Network, Arbitrum's dev mainnet went live, things like that. So those began rolling out. Now, let's look forward 1 year. What do we have to look forward to? Well, obviously, AIP 1559, possibly the biggest and most anticipated upgrade. I would say it's the most anticipated upgrade in Ethereum's history. And that's going live late July, early August, hopefully. Then we have the ETH1 to ETH2 merge, of course, which is early 2022, as I've been talking about. That will be the biggest upgrade in Ethereum's history after 1559. Because it's obviously, ripping out proof of work, putting in place proof of stake, and fulfilling the full vision that Ethereum has had since basically it was invented by Vitalik. We have the continued L2 rollout. I've been going on about Arbitrum going to be opening up to the public any day now. We've obviously had Polygon scalability solutions rolling out as well. So it's not just L2 rollout, it's also scalability solutions as well that have been kind of rolling out and really helping Ethereum scale here. And, Optimism, of course, zksync, Starkware, all of it. All of it's coming within the next year. And it's going to get, it's going to be, I guess, production ready and ready for users to take advantage of. And then improved privacy tools as well. We had some of those go live like Aztec Protocol went live with their layer 2 rollup, but in very limited fashion. It wasn't like a big release or anything like that. They didn't have that many users, but by design. They were just doing testing, doing like early alphas, things like that. We obviously had Tornado Cash going live with their mixer and things like that. So yeah, I think the privacy tools are going to be improved going forward as well. And then, as I said here, Ethereum's future is bright. Ignore the short-term noise. And really, that's all you have to do. And I'm planning on putting together a video soon about what to do during a crypto bear market. Now, I don't know if this is a bear market or not. Like, as I've said before on the refuel, I don't consider us to be in like a bear market unless it's like at least 3 months of continuous downward movement. Because I would say the same thing for a bull market. I don't consider crypto to be an actual bull market unless it's been going up for 3 months straight and it's also breaking some kind of like breaking new highs essentially. So new local highs, I should say. Not all-time highs. So from that point of view, I wouldn't call it a bear market, but just generally, I want to put together a video that basically goes through what to do in these kind of down markets, because there's so much to do, and I won't spoil it now, but there really is so much to do. I mean, I basically did everything that I am known for today in a bear market, except the Daily Gwei. I started that in the bull market, but still, I only launched the Daily Gwei because I had such a large following, and I figured it would have been very easy for me to reach a bunch of people. So that obviously played a big part in it there. But anyway, I'm going to leave that for the standalone video I'm going to do. Hopefully I can get that out sometime this week because I think it's very important for those of you who want to actually stick around and be in it for the tech instead of just being in it for the speculative side of things. I think it's very important that you understand what opportunities are available to you during these times and where best to spend kind of like your time and energy. Anyway, look out for that one. So I put out this tweet of this chart that said the number of Ethereum addresses holding 10,000 plus ETH just hit a new all-time high here. So this tweet was a bit funny because in the comments I got like a bit of pushback with people saying, this doesn't mean that like, it's bullish that whales are accumulating ETH. There's so much noise in this data now, blah, blah, blah. And I don't disagree with that. I wrote today's Daily Gwei newsletter about this. I actually completely agree that taking one on-chain metric and extrapolating, a kind of view from it is a fool's errand, really. And even in my data pump videos, I don't do this. I always say that it's impossible, really, it's near impossible to know if something's a leading or lagging indicator, and you have to take an aggregate look of the entire ecosystem. You can't just look at one indicator. But anyway, I kind of put this out there as a kind of test to see how people would react to this, and people reacted exactly as I thought they would. They took this as a bullish tweet. Now, and I purposely didn't say that this was bullish or bearish because I wanted to see reactions. So, kind of explaining myself further here, I look at this and I look at kind of like, number of Ethereum addresses holding 10,000 or more ETH being at an all-time high. And I think to myself, okay, well, does this include smart contracts? Well, no, it doesn't. That's the first thing you have to qualify. This does not include smart contracts. This is just normal Ethereum addresses. Then if you wanted to dig into this further, you would have to dig into, okay, well, has some whale for some reason split up their ETH into multiple addresses and just kept it at 10,000 plus for whatever reason. And that might sound silly, but there are actually a lot of addresses like this. Maybe not around the 10,000 mark, but I was scrolling through and there's so many addresses with just 150,000 ETH in them for whatever reason. And maybe they may or may not belong to the same individual or group or whatever, but still, it's just kind of like bizarre, I guess, when you look at it like that. Then you have to kind of take out all the outliers here, like all the exchange addresses and cold storage and other things like that are aggregated addresses. They're not just belong to one person. And there's a bunch of other things you would have to kind of consider here. So from that point of view, this could be bearish. It could be showing that whales are still very bullish on ETH. It can be bullish because it shows a lot of whales are still bullish on ETH. But it can also point to like nothing in particular. It can also mean that maybe whales are bullish long term, but it means absolutely nothing for the short to medium term kind of price action. And as you can see here, I mean, it stayed flat for a lot of 2018 and 2019 here. Actually, the first half of 2019, it kind of like bottomed out and then trended back up. And that was actually a pretty good indicator of the market. But I think it was like a lagging indicator there as well. And then you can see during 2020, actually, even until like late 2020, this was still going down, even though ETH's price was going up. And I think this was because people were trading ETH for BTC. And then you can see at the end, when ETH started waking up again, all these whales seems to have just FOMO'd in. But without more kind of context around this data, you can't really extrapolate anything from it, is my view on this sort of stuff. So, I might dig into this a little bit deeper to see what happens here. Maybe I'll talk about it on next month's data pump. But still, just a kind of like word of caution here. Anytime you see any kind of on-chain metrics, take it with a grain of salt. Don't try and trade on them, really. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say don't try and trade them. If you do, just don't expect it to go the way you want all the time, because for example, a lot of people like to trade based on, how much stable coins are going into exchanges or how much like ETH is going into an exchange. Because, logically you would think, okay, well, all these stable coins are going into a centralized exchange. There's only one reason that they would go there, and that's to buy crypto. It's like, well, I don't know about that, right? Maybe they're going there because they want to change their stable coins for actual fiat and go to their bank account, because yields actually dropped, a lot in DeFi recently because of the market cooling down. So maybe people want to take their stable coins and not yield farm with them anymore and just go to traditional finance with their fiat. That's possible. I know people that have done this. So if you kind of look at it from that perspective, that's bearish, right? That doesn't mean that stablecoins are going to exchanges to buy crypto. They're actually exiting the ecosystem altogether. That's really bearish. And then on the other hand, you have like tokens going to exchanges. Like say there's a lot of ETH going into exchanges. Well, people might say, oh, well, this is bearish. All these ETHs are about to get sold. You have no idea if that's going to happen. Maybe this person's just adding ETH for collateral because they're going long on ETH and they want to add collateral to it. Or maybe this person is just doing it to psyops the market and they know people are watching the kind of like transactions on chain, and maybe they have a short on and they're saying, okay, well, if I deposit like this much ETH onto an exchange, can I trick the market into dumping a little bit and profiting off this short? It's risky, sure, but I can guarantee you that it happens. So from that point of view, I think I always remember the rule about like if kind of like a metric becomes like a measure and something that everyone looks at, then I think it ceases to become a good measure, right? If it becomes like the target, then it ceases to become a good measure of anything really. So I think that's what a lot of on-chain data has kind of like floated towards lately over the last few months, I think. But there's still gold to be found. There's still a lot of metrics that you can take in aggregate and compare to each other and see things and kind of like gauge things from it. But in terms of like trading for price, I think you have to take a lot of metrics together and you have to take a macro look. I don't think you can actually trade short term based on on-chain data, but maybe some people do. I'd be curious to hear from you if you do. Definitely comment if you do. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. You can read more about this in the Daily Gwei newsletter. So Tim Beiko posted the London testnets announcement here, which basically announced the fork blocks for the London network upgrade. So it's going live on Robston on June 24th. It'll be on Gurley on June 30th and Rinkeby on July 7th here. I can't remember if I actually spoke about this on last week's refuel. I might have. I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting now. But anyway, even if I did, still just a recap here. There hasn't been a mainnet block date set for London yet. London, for those who don't know, is the upgrade that includes ERP 1559. But yeah, there hasn't been a mainnet block set yet. As I said, that's probably going to come late July, early August, barring any like catastrophic errors on the test nets. But still, June 24th is this week. Excited to see this go live on Robston and excited to see testnet ETH being burnt. Be pretty cool, right? Because like then maybe just like a month and a bit later, we'll have it on mainnet and ETH will still be getting burnt. I mean, people still think that like ETH's not going to get burnt because the market's quiet. As I've explained before, there's still going to be lots of ETH being burned even at 10 Gwei. That's like what, 5 million I think average a day of fees, $5 million worth of fees. Even if like 3.5 million of that gets burnt, that's 3.5 million ETH that we weren't burning before. So, you know, and it doesn't really stay at 10 Gwei. I mean, it's at 50 right now because the market kind of volatility picked up. The market volatility isn't going anywhere. DeFi is not going anywhere. So we're still going to have these kind of periods where it spikes up. When the market heats up again, because it will, it's not going to be bearish forever. When it heats up again, we're going to have 1559 in place and we're going to be burning that ETH, baby. So, you know, I think just people, again, just looking at the short term and not kind of like considering the long-term implications of this. But anyway, they'll see it play out. I'm fine with it. I'll be shilling how much ETH is getting burned all the time on Twitter. You can be sure about that. That's for sure. All right, on to Futureswap here. So they announced that they're developing V3 of their protocol and it will launch natively on Arbitrum. So just another project that's going to be on Arbitrum, which is really cool. So basically, Futureswap V3 comes with a protocol redesign. It'll come with more leverage, more assets, and no impermanent loss. If you want to read the full kind of details about this, I'll link this in the YouTube description. But this is super cool that they're kind of launching on Arbitrum natively here. I don't even know if they're deploying on L1. I think they're just going to deploy on L2 and that's it. And I think we're going to see more and more projects do this where they just deploy to Ethereum's L2 ecosystem and maybe never deploy to L1. Because realistically, there's no point, right, for a lot of projects. Because when you think about it, if the long-term goal is and the long-term expectation is that you think that everyone's just going to be sitting at layer 2 because they will be, then why even bother accruing network effects on layer 1? Just sit at layer 2 and then get all the users in layer 2 and you can be done with it. I think DYDX have taken that approach where they were on layer 1, but then they relaunched on layer 2 and they're not even focused on their layer 1 kind of exchange anymore. They're all in on layer 2. So I think that's the same thing with Futureswap. I actually imagine that a lot of protocols going forward are going to do this. And I saw some comments today about people saying, well, on layer 2, you can do much more than what you can do on Ethereum with the EVM and Solidity. You can do, like I've spoken about how Starkware has their own smart contract language called Cairo. They have their own virtual machine on there as well. So you're not kind of limited by Ethereum's, EVM and Solidity and whatever. Now, I'm not going to argue whether that's bad or good. It's just giving developers more options, which is, I think, always a good thing, to be honest, if developers have more options. And it's up to them what they adopt at the end of the day and what they kind of like want to work with. But still, very, very cool to see this. Good luck on Futureswap on this launch. I am just like itching for Arbitrum at this point. Like it's got to be any day now, right? It could even be this week. I don't know. I haven't got any special knowledge here, but it's got to be coming, and I just can't wait to use it once it's live. So Ben Edgington put out his latest What's New in ETH2 newsletter, and as I've mentioned plenty of times, this is the absolute best newsletter to keep up with if you want to see what's happening in ETH2. It's available at eth2.news. But anyway, a bunch of usual upgrades in here about the Beacon, updates in here about the Beacon chain, Altair, the first network upgrade coming to ETH2, planned very soon actually, over the next couple of months I believe. Some more kind of updates on the merge, staking, explainers, media, research, all the regular stuff here. Just wanted to give it a shout out just so you guys don't miss it. This newsletter is just amazing. There's always so much meat in here and links to different things, and you can get lost in this. And this is actually one of the things I'm going to be talking about in my what to do in a crypto bear market video, because I don't think a lot of people have realized just how much there is to do and how much there is to read, to watch, to learn. You can get lost for so long. That's what I did in 2018 and 2019, really, during the depths of a bear market. I just got absolutely lost in reading everything and being a part of the community and helping everyone with things. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to spoil the video, but generally, just go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description for you to do so. So Sam McPhearson from, I don't think he's from Maker here, but no, he does smart contracts at MakerDAO, put out this tweet that said, Flash minting is coming to MakerDAO. Now, what Flash minting allows people to do is basically get guaranteed access to 500 million in DAI liquidity, whereas previously borrowers would be constrained by the amount of liquidity available in lending pools, but Maker has no such restriction as it can mint DAI into existence. So essentially what this means is that I believe that people that want to do kind of like flash loans and things like that are going to be able to do it via Maker now instead of having to go through something like, I believe DYDX was doing this on layer 1 and like Aave and things like that. Just because Maker is the issuer of DAI, and if it's a flash loan, then it kind of like the DAI gets minted, and then it's used for whatever during that flash loan, and then it just gets paid back. So really, the Maker kind of protocol is not going to be at any kind of risk here, and that's why they've got $500 million available in DAI liquidity here, because that DAI essentially only exists for that block, for that one Ethereum block during a flash loan or flash minting or whatever you want to call it here. So that's really cool. If we're talking about stuff that's going to be like kind of fun to kind of look at in the bear market, it's stuff like this. These projects like Maker and Uniswap and Compound and all those ones that have been around for a while now, they're not slowing down. They're not going anywhere. They're going to keep iterating, improving. They have very strong communities now. And especially strong communities because they've got governance tokens attached to them as well. And I know people like to meme about governance tokens all the time and make jokes about them, but there are actually a lot of people who deeply care about this sort of stuff and want to do governance and want to be part of that community. I've spoken about it before how I got like a rather large Gitcoin token airdrop, and I mentioned in the Discord the other day I sold 25% of it because I wanted to take some off the table, but I'm holding the rest of it for pretty much like I don't even know when I'd sell it, to be honest. I'm holding it for a long time, and I've delegated it to someone I trust, Trent Van Epps, who's a good friend of mine. He works at the Ethereum Foundation to like do governance on my behalf, but I still keep track of everything that's happening on Gitcoin, and I'm glad that like I have such a powerful voice as well, because I trust Trent to kind of like to kind of have my best interests at heart with Gitcoin. He's very aligned on things with me, and if I feel like he's kind of like on a side of something that I would disagree with, I can always talk to him about it and see where we can kind of find a middle ground. Or if he does things that I don't like, I can literally just kind of undelegate my tokens from him and delegate it to someone else, which is, I think, really cool. It's like kind of a liquid democracy. So yeah, there's a lot of communities like this, and there's gonna be, and the funny thing is, the people that stick around if we do go into a prolonged kind of bear market, they're gonna be the ones that that you're gonna want to get to know. They're gonna be the ones that you want to get to kind of like network with and things like that. But anyway, this is really cool from MakerDAO. I'll link it in the YouTube description. You can go check it out. So speaking of ERP 1559 before, there was a proposal on the Polygon forum to introduce 1559 to the Polygon POS chain, but the main difference is that they would remove the fee burn and basically send the, base fee to, instead of burning it, they would send it to like a contract address that was managed to a DAO for, like public goods funding on Polygon. Now, I think this is cool, but I don't know if this is something that I kind of agree with, because this was actually discussions that was had between the Ethereum community and like how to do kind of like public goods funding at the protocol level. Do you do it through the 1559 base fee, or do you do it through a block subsidy, something like what Zcash has, where they have some portion of the block reward going into a treasury? And Ethereum generally hasn't wanted this. I don't know if this is the right thing for Polygon. Still cool to see them doing this, and this wouldn't actually burn or kind of like ETH or direct that ETH to a DAO. It would direct Matic tokens to the DAO, because you pay fees on Polygon in Matic tokens. So, from that perspective, Matic is a capped supply kind of currency. It is not perpetual issuance like what Ethereum is. So they have a different monetary policy to what Ethereum does. So maybe this makes sense for Polygon. Still, I would like to see some kind of burn in there. I don't know. I'm just like, I really love the burn aspect of 1559. I think it's very, very elegant in aligning the kind of network and feeding value back into the reserve asset of the ecosystem. But again, I actually think that the reserve asset of Polygon should be ETH in terms of like the fee payment token and stuff like that, and have the Matic token as just a staking token that can collect fees from the network as well, which I think is fine. That's kind of like how Ethereum's doing it, where ETH really fundamentally at the end of the day is as like a staking token used to pay fees and used as trustless collateral. And the part of it is burnt as well. Whereas within Polygon, you could have like the Matic token taking on all functions except being like a fee token, and people could just pay the fees in ETH, and that ETH will get burned or whatever. But who knows what they're going to do here? There's discussion on the. There's actually a lot of discussion on the forum post if you want to go check this out. Like, I think there's hundreds of comments here. So I'll link this for you to go check it out. It'll be in the YouTube description. So Hokie put out a really great flow chart here, which you won't be able to see on the video, but it basically describes kind of like the Ethereum governance process. Now, you can view this, you'll be able to view this in the YouTube description. You can go kind of like blow it up here. I mean, I guess if I open it in a new tab, I may be able to view it. No, I'll have to. I think you can just like copy image address and then open it up. I'm not going to do that now. But anyway, this basically goes through kind of like a flow chart of, and you can see at the top, basically what governance looks like to Bitcoin maximalists and what, how governance actually works within Ethereum. And this is taking like a monetary change. So, how does the Ethereum monetary policy kind of get changed or altered? And, Bitcoin maximalists believe that it just goes to Vitalik, he approves it, and he uses his masternode to put the change in. When in reality, it goes through an extremely lengthy governance process that has a ton of different stakeholders, and, each of them have a different role and each of them have different powers. And that's what this flow chart kind of describes. So I won't go through the whole thing because I want you to go check it out for yourself. It'll, of course, be linked in the YouTube description. But this is amazing. I mean, I had people asking me in the Discord the other day kind of like what the Ethereum governance process was and how it all worked. Well, this is how it works. Ethereum doesn't have on-chain governance. It has off-chain governance that goes through, as I said, a very, very lengthy process. And it is not something easy. It's not easy to get things into the protocol. Even extremely popular things like 1559 have taken over 2 years to get into the protocol. So, I don't get it when people's kind of like FUD Ethereum by saying, it's really easy to change it. You could snap your fingers and change whatever you want. No, that's not reality at all. So, yeah, go check this out. It'll be in the YouTube description. Finally, here we have some more bullish L2 news out of the Graph and Optimism. So the Graph announced that they're going to be supporting the optimistic Ethereum network going forward. Now, I've spoken about how I believe Optimism didn't launch in March because of, and they delayed their launch because their infrastructure wasn't ready. They didn't have their Etherscan kind of optimistic Ethereum block explorer back then. They obviously didn't have the Graph because they have it now. I don't think they had something like Infura or Alchemy or another kind of like infrastructure provider like that. And generally, I don't think they had the developer docs up to scratch or anything like that. So I think that 3-month kind of delay was a way for them to do all of that and get all that up to scratch so that people could start working with it. And that's what you have to do. You can't launch any kind of network, whether it be a layer 1 or layer 2, without this supporting infrastructure in place. And as I said, that includes things like block explorers, nodes, like what Alchemy and Infura will give you, like full nodes, archive nodes, the Graph, the middleware for querying and things like that. And and there's many more out there, like wallets. I mean, layer 2s on Ethereum are very easy because you have MetaMask as the native wallet that you can use with it. But all that sort of stuff needs to be considered, needs to be implemented. I mean, oracles like Chainlink. You can't have a layer 2 without oracles, and Chainlink has to be on there too. So Arbitrum already has support for it, and so does Optimism, I believe. So yeah, really cool to see this. Really cool to see. I mean, I love the graph as a project. I don't hold the token. I'm not just shilling it because I hold the token. I don't. But I love the graph because they really do offer an amazing service to different kind of projects. And I've spoken about it before, how they're basically the reason you're able to see kind of like all your nice little fancy dashboards in real time, whether they be on something like Zappa or on a DeFi kind of interface. The reason you can see all those things really quickly and accurately is because the graph is doing the querying in the background for you. So yeah. Anyway, really cool. I think that's it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the newsletter. Join the Discord channel. And I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.